from now, and we are live. Okay, so hello and welcome to yet another episode of The Human Quotient. And I'm Sudhanshu. I'm the co founder of Antwalk and your host for the evening. At Antwalk, it's our constant endeavor to discuss pertinent, contemporary, relevant business problems with business leaders and bring their business voices to you. And the last couple of years have been, know, I would say, very disruptive in terms of how businesses worldwide have evolved. Some brought around by COVID, post that AI, Gen AI. A lot of businesses are coping up, they're trying to catch up, and at the forefront of all of this and helping especially technology companies get their strategy right, get their operations right, and drive this transformation. Right at the forefront has been Raj Upadhyay, who has joined us today. uh, Raj, first of all, welcome to this show.
Thank you.
And Raj, you have 20 plus years of experience, and you have helped multiple companies in IT infrastructure, service delivery, and multiple business transformations that have been there. So you have been at the forefront of this for some time. But what have you observed specifically in the last 4 5 years, given the impact of both COVID and Gen AI in terms of how businesses are looking at it?
Sure. So, if I really look at the last 5 years, and I think you know there have been multiple transformation, and maybe I don't know that's the right statement to pass thanks to COVID. So, COVID was one of the situation which something it has impacted us everyone, and if you really look at that unexpected situation, though whenever you are into
Mhm.
the unexpected situation due to any reason, normally there could be a two outcome. One is positive, one is another one is negative.
Mhm.
Negative, we all are aware about the COVID, what happened, like
Yeah.
how we have recovered, all other things. But if I really look at from the uh, positive sense, it has really changed completely our working model. Okay, and this has impacted the, I would say, each piece of IT, whatever we have been doing for many more years. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and good part is that because you are not having the choice, as a IT company or as a IT fraternity, you have to go back and adopt certain thing very quickly because that was the need of our. Okay, and that has basically led to so many initiatives in such a short span of time to make sure that you are able to adopt it, you are able to make it working and operationalize it. That is something is that really people were able to cope up that thing very quickly. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
the moment you were talking about during the COVID situation, obviously the remote working, all other thing, that was one of the, I mean, you were not having any choice at all. You have to go ahead
Yeah.
and adopt, make it working. And the moment you have gone ahead with that, imagine like the way you are supporting your IT ecosystem, the way you are running your entire IT support model, the way you are supporting your service desk, the way you are offering the on-prem services to the customers. So many things have completely changed, and it was a kind of a full stop. Like, hey, this model is not going to work. We have to think something differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
That has basically led to you know forced you that go back, hey, do something differently.
Yeah.
And then after that, basically it has impacted each piece of IT, and that was one of the point where many of us basically we have gone ahead and took a pause and then thought like, hey, how am I going to support my entire employee base remotely? We have
Correct.
never supported. We were habitual to meet in person. People were coming to the office. And apart from, I mean, and during that point specifically, like, really whatever the support model we were having, I think that was not enough to survive. And that has led to think differently and design the each piece of it, whatever you are delivering from the IT perspective. Okay. And good that many companies, the customers, we
Mhm.
have adopted. Yeah, I will not question on the pace of or the success, but I think each one of us into the IT fraternity, we were able to make it working in some other shape or form. That was the situational demand where we were not having the choice. We have gone ahead and adopted it. Now
Absolutely.
the next question is that, and we were able to run our shop somehow, and then slowly, gradually, we have seen like people, started fine tuning the approach the way, because we have delivered the support model or the IT services, because that point of time, obviously, you are not having a breathing space, or you are not having enough quality time to design a solution and then deliver for your customers, because that entire paradigm has changed. But now what is the next option? The next option is that, as you have already delivered it, now going forward, what you need to do that, how am I going to make it more effective and efficient support model? So you must have seen the trend after, once people were able to run their shop, once they were able to rotate the day-to-day working model, now people started thinking like, hey, is that the best way to do that? Let's find out a way that, really, how I can go ahead and take a step-by-step approach and make it working. Okay. And this particular situation was not limited to only IT, it was for the entire all
Yeah.
other verticals. And I'll take a very simple example of your hiring process. We were habitual to have in-person interviews,
Oh, yeah.
shortlist the candidate, all other thing. Now the moment, the situation has come where you have to do it everything remotely. How am I going to ensure that I'm interviewing a right person? How am I going to ensure that the person who is speaking other side, that person is the actual candidate? Okay, that is the point where I think I personally feel that AI get into that, and then we started putting the more smarter solutions. We started putting the more uh, technically effective solution, which is something really helping us to take this journey to the next level. So one is that during the COVID, we we were forced to get into a situation, put a model which you can at least start supporting your customers. As soon as you're having a breathing space, then try to find out more smarter method to deliver your IT ecosystem. Okay, as I've given example for your hiring process. Like this, if I go back and talk about an each and every segment, you will find out everyone is really now started moving into that direction. Like really, how I can go ahead and find out much better, smarter solutions to make sure that I'm able to deliver my services more effectively, more efficiently. And that's how basically Gen AI has really created a very critical role. And I think day by day, we can think every day the things are really getting into that. And I mean, as I've taken example of hiring process, today in today's world, if you go back, find out there are so many innovative solutions are available, which is something inbuilt by AI, which can give you the complete social profile of the person which you are interviewing. It can give you the complete background, it can give you the complete 360-degree view. Now you as a human just go ahead and take a decision like, yes, basis on this 10 parameter, is it something fitting to my requirement or not? So that's how basically I feel that day by day AI is getting into our life to make it more efficient, make it more effective on the ground. So that's how basically I see that things have changed in last couple of years, and every day we have been challenged with these new technologies. And I think apart from accepting those new trend, you do not have any choice. Sudhanshu, you are speaking on mute, looks like.
Sorry. Yeah. So you spoke about these, how companies have evolved, and now I also want to talk from, say, companies like us who serve global clientele, right? There are many companies from India who serve global clienteles, ITs, telecom, small SaaS companies. There are multiple companies who are now. How has that business transformation impacted them in terms of what the customer expects, how the delivery model has to change? There is one way of me adopting as a organization some of these practices. How does it change my business landscape itself?
Yeah, I think this is something a very interesting point, and I can share my, what I'm experiencing it in the industry. Like, before COVID, whenever you talk about our business offerings, those were pretty kind of a la carte menu. Like, hey, you have a 10 options, you go ahead and pick either one of them, and then even the customers were also pretty okay with that. Like, hey, this is something what is the model is into the industry, that's fine. Maybe they will add little bit, plus minus, and then you have a fixed things to deliver, then you have a fixed tag to deliver, and then go back and work with your customers, with your partners. I mean, the entire ecosystem was well versed with those deliverables, right? But post COVID, if you really talk about, the things have completely changed, and the customers are demanding a bit differently. And if you keep getting into the each and every conversation with the customer, trust me, everyone is having a very unique ask. Their basic requirement might be a common, but the moment you go ahead and talk, they will add something on top of it, which is something really, it will complicate a life of a person who is really going to deliver their requirements. Okay, and that requirements are pretty crazy, and crazy means all good sense, because that's how basically the customer side of a story also have changed. Because now if you really talk about, earlier maybe we were talking to the customers over phone, and then we were providing the necessary solution, customers were also okay, happy. But if you really see that, really people are now, they are ready to give you a voice call, and they're trying to get your solutions. No, these things are available. The people are really, they wanted to utilize the digital channel and then get their problem solved. And people are really feeling more happy providing a solution on this instant messaging. Even the people are not feeling to write an email, right? I mean, that is something also people are discouraging day by day. So now the requirement trend, this is something changing every day. And now the moment you are sitting on the other side of the table, it's pretty important to understand that pattern, and then how you are going to change your delivery ecosystem to make sure that you are complementing that customer's requirement. And if I really try to correlate with your questions, I think one of the biggest thing is that no one is having a timeline. I mean, those days have gone where you go back and talk to the customers like, hey, I need 8 weeks or 12 weeks to deliver your IT ecosystem sitting at offshore location. No one is going to buy at all. Now people are talking about, hey, I have, now you are awarded. Let me know how soon I can start the KT. Now it's up to you that how your ecosystem is enough effective, a fat-free solution which you're offering, that you can go ahead and deliver within a week or 10 days time. You're able to start the KT for that particular customer. Okay, that is the demand. And to, in order to make it working, what is needed? Do you feel that whatever we have been delivering so far for before the COVID or maybe a couple of years with the on-prem infrastructure, it's very difficult or rare to meet those timelines. Now, what is the way forward approach? I think how fast you are going ahead and adopting those most emerging technology, most cutting edge technology, and then making sure that those technologies are available at your doorstep as soon as the customer is demanding. I think you should really pick and choose and try to design the solution and deliver the solution whatever the timeline they are talking about. So first of all, the customers are not having the timeline. That is one of the biggest change that happened. Okay. The another thing is that your delivery model is should be so efficient that it should be able to deliver the a pretty precise, accurate solution to the customers. So I mean, the possibility and the probability of error has gone. Earlier, like, hey, my provider is having a problem, you can blame your telecom provider. Like, my provider is having some issues, and I'll take another week to fix. Now no one is ready to listen what they are talking about. I have given a service to you, can you go ahead and deliver the service faster, in a more accurate way, in a very precise way, whatever I'm talking about? That's the second biggest thing which we have seen. And the third thing is that hey, I might be starting with a very small volume with you, Now the very next day I may come and say that, hey, I want to increase that business by maybe 10x. Are you ready? That should be your offering, whatever you have designed, whatever the IT solution you are designing, how fast you can scale up and scale down. So these are the big three paradigm change, what I can see into the current world. And that is something, trust me, every day, we have been tossed for each and every customer solutions. We go back and then try to learn from those situations. Obviously, whatever the best planning you put today, you can think at a certain limit, like, but the moment you get into the customer call, I think these days every customer is having coming with a very unique requirement, and you as
Hmm.
a provider, like, really how fast, how effectively, how efficiently you can go ahead and provide the solution to the customer. That's the biggest ask from the business side.
No, if I summarize this, you put 4 points, right? So the first was that you can be, there are more and more unique, I wouldn't call it customization, but unique requirements coming from customers. That is the first. The second is the turnaround time, the time to deployment and boarding, that is very, very less, right? The margin of error is very, very less. It has gone down substantially. You cannot blame it on external factors. You have to be, an end-to-end solution. At the same time, you should also be ready to for a rapid scale up and scale down, right? If you put all of this together, it sounds all very nightmarish for somebody who is trying to, do global solutions. But amongst all of this nightmare and chaos is where companies are coming up with adapt innovative solutions, and that is where the opportunity is, right? And that is where you were saying that, companies are using this niche technologies, and unless and until you are on that bandwagon, you started the conversation saying that you don't have an option anymore, right? You are on this boat or you're off this boat. There is not another boat that is coming. So you'll talk about some of the initiatives that you're involved in, Raj, but I'll also talk about the certain pushbacks against this rapid innovation this rapid disruption that is having, that is going around. I was talking to one of the HRs, and he was saying that, and he was feeling a little sad about it, saying that, there were a lot of very good, as you said, to quote, there were some good things in terms of transformation that happened during COVID, and as soon as now that we are post 2 years, 2.5 years, some of that innovation that has been accelerated by COVID, people are laxing on it. People are going back to older ways. There are some organizations where there's some internal resistance that is also having. So I'm very sure that the companies that you would be dealing with, they would also be facing these internal resistances. And but I'm sure that, as you rightly said, if they do not adopt to these changes, sooner or later they will have to wake up to the realization. So what's in store for them, and how do companies drive this internal conflict that they have around these transformations?
Sure, I think you picked up a very good question. So if you really talk about in today's world, like, if I take example of maybe 5 years back, maybe in a month or in a quarter, you were hearing like, hey, there's a new disruptive technology is coming. People were really ready for that. They were well
Mm.
prepared. As people were going through the certifications, they were trying to learn about that thing. Then, I know as a CXOs were having a choice whether I should really go ahead with this technology or not. It used to happen a long debate, and then after that, they were having a space and a scope to choose it or not, right? But if
Yeah.
you really talk about in today's scenario, every day, every second, every minute, every hour, every week, there is a new technology, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because those technologies are so disruptive, like, you do not have any choice that, hey, I can't accept it, or I mean, I do not want to adopt this technology, because some point of time, customers are coming to you, your way, and they're asking to deploy that particular technology. They're asking to use that technology.
Yeah.
And some point of time, you as a service owner, you might be feeling like, hey, I think there's a genuine need to accept that technology, because that technology is so beautiful, that is technology is giving us a so much, efficiency into my overall ecosystem, that,
Mm.
I do not have any choice. I have to go ahead and accept it. If I don't do that, I might be running with a very heavy capex or opex cost.
Mm.
Now, This piece is really causing a couple of problems, and let me tell you, these all are a very rapid change. And if you go
Mm.
back and talk as a human, first of all, and specifically if we talk about into any organization, as per my understanding, I think three things are becoming a very crucial,
Mhm.
in terms of any change management. One is that, the moment you go ahead and decide that, hey, really, I want to get into that. And I take example like, maybe voice telephony. Take example of into your collab or Wi-Fi, or even the telecom world, right? If you decide any technology these days, you have so many great solutions available. There are so many effective solutions available. Like, they are neck to neck, and
Yeah.
you as a deciding authority, it is becoming a very super difficult for you to go ahead and find out like, hey, which one I should really pick. Okay, and there's a very thin margin in terms of their benefit, in terms of their cost. Everything is becoming so competitive because, it's opportunity for them, right? And they want to be into the race. And then you as a deciding party, you have a very tough situation to go ahead and pick like, hey, among these five, which one I should pick. And obviously one point of time, go back and take a decision on either one of them, whatever is suitable for you. So one of the biggest thing and one of the biggest challenge what I can see is that, finding the right technology which is something helping to resolve your business requirements. Don't try to pick a technology which is something, hey, some of your peers are accepting, hence I am going ahead and then taking it. Okay, you try to find out like, whatever the technology you are deciding, how's that technology going to resolve your business problem. That is one of the biggest change which something, the people are really struggling. The
I see.
second thing is that, as soon as you decide a technology, try to understand, and I'm just to put it in a very sequential way, that technology doesn't exist into the market or maybe with that company, right? So
Mhm.
one of the thing is that, the cultural change.
Yeah.
Yeah, take example like, hey, I have been joining the any call, dialing the voice PSTN number, and immediately we say that, yeah, you have to go ahead and join the video call now, right? It's a big change for even for the entire organization, for the entire user fraternity.
Yeah.
Now the culturally people should accept like, hey, there is a better technology available than this PSTN dialing, right? I'm
Yeah.
just giving a very simple example. You may be able to replicate this example with any other disruptive technology, whatever you go ahead and accept it, right?
Mhm.
So second biggest thing is the cultural change, where the people should really accept that technology culturally. That should be into their DNA. Like, hey, now we have something better. Please support it. And third thing is something related to your talent transformation, because the moment you talk about the new technology, there's nothing comes free. Like end of the day, you might be having a very great support model. Maybe these days these SaaS providers are taking out your complete administrative burden, but end
Mhm.
of the day, you need a human who can at least sustain that technology, who can at least run that technology. Obviously, the moment you are deciding a technology, you cannot fire the resources and hire a new resources on that. Whatever you can do that, right?
Yeah.
Now, how you are going ahead and really transforming the skill set of your existing resources towards the new technology which you have adopted. And this area is bit tricky. The moment you go
Mhm.
back and talk to any techies, like, hey, we have moved from on-prem to cloud, take example. I'm telling you, 80-90% of the people will have a fear in their mind, hey, am I going to lose my job? That will be
Yeah.
the first impression they will be maintaining in their mind. So you have to at least remove that fear from their mind by giving a strategic perspective. And you as a
Mhm.
leader make sure that really, how am I going ahead transforming those skill set to the new technology and making sure that they are able to understand and they are adopting the new technology. So I think these are the three biggest pillars what I feel that is pretty important, where every organization need to think about it whenever they are taking any kind of such disruptive decisions.
No, no, so we'll talk about that, and no, we also observe this as we work with multiple companies. All the 3 points that you have said is absolutely right. One question that I have is, way back post the entire Y2K fiasco that happened around 2000, BCPs were already in place in most companies. I remember way back when I joined Cognizant in 2007, we had a there was some incident of I think swine flu or something, and the entire Bangalore office, there were companies were preparing for eventualities. We're preparing for Companies were preparing for scenarios which would disrupt their businesses. However, COVID was something that most of the companies had never thought of. However, some companies were there who managed the transition adaptation better than others. Okay, so what I want to understand from you is how did some companies possibly accelerate this faster, manage to emerge better at the end of the day? And currently you are involved in many initiatives which nobody knows the future. There are multiple things that companies need to prepare themselves for as they step into the future. So if you can walk us through some of the initiatives that you are preparing, helping different companies adopt, that is something that would be interest to our audience.
Sure. So I think I would like to clear one of the myth.
Yeah.
Normally, the moment you talk about BCP, because I'm pretty deft in that cyber resiliency, all other thing. We have done the multiple initiatives to make sure that really how we can go ahead and make sure that our organization is ready from that angle. Normally, this BCP is one of the thing I would say, put it somewhere else into the paper. BCP means like, hey, if the site is unavailable, if resource is, I mean, human workforce is unavailable. So the BCPs are normally designed, to meet that requirement. Okay, and that's how we have been running. And and I think somewhere else into your contractual agreement, you'll find out with the customers like, hey, we have a BCP solution for you. That's how it's going to work. And good part is that we keep doing that BCP also, like, hey, maybe tomorrow you'll be operating from location B rather in place of A. And that's how basically we go back and tick mark and say that, hey, BCP is done, great, wow. But I think one of the biggest thing we should understand, like, BCP has got a pretty wider area, and not limited only to your unavailability of site, unavailability of your workforce. Imagine that, if your IT infra itself is unavailable. Assume that, your login authentication SSO is completely unavailable. And I'm sure people might be having the recent example of the crowd strike. Imagine that kind of situation, right? And don't react. Take a pause and think, what if your SSO is unavailable? Will you be able to run your uh, operations? Will you be able to support your customers? Simply no. Simply no. You can't. You can't.
We had a very recent example, as you said, with CrowdStrike. World almost came to a standstill for those 24 hours.
Absolutely. And because your entire ecosystem is integrated with the SSO, right? You need a credential to log into the system, and then you do anything, right? Now the situation here is that, we have to think that BCP bit differently. And BCP means, like, you have to think like, what if my end user machine is in itself is encrypted? How am I going ahead and providing uh, another working machine for my users to go ahead and start working? What if my SSO is unavailable? How am I going ahead and providing the method for my users to log into the corporate system and then start supporting the customers? What if my collab system itself is unavailable? You can imagine, you cannot run the organization over WhatsApp, right? You have to have some kind of corporate method to communicate with your employees. How you are going to do that? So I think if you go back and try to pin down these all scenarios, you will find out, like, almost each and every services whatever you are providing. Obviously, you cannot have a parallel ecosystem for your entire IT delivery, but you may have to go back and pinpoint, like, hey, out of these 10-20 services whatever I am offering to my employees, and these employees are serving to my customers, out of that maybe 5 or 10, I should be having a completely a separate autonomous system to provide as soon as my primary mode of the availability is, I mean, it has gone. Okay, and then try to put that model in a very sequential way, and you must try to do a dry run and make sure that the way you are anticipating how it's going to work. And that's how I feel that becoming a super critical, super important. And I can quote one of the event post CrowdStrike incident. I was part of one of the Gartner discussion. People were really questioning, like, hey, is that the problem of Microsoft or the CrowdStrike? And one of the panelists answered very beautifully. Like, he said that please don't treat this problem as a Microsoft problem or the CrowdStrike problem. This is one of the incident had happened. It may happen with another OEM as well, which you are providing, right? Because it has impacted. Hence, you are saying that it's a Microsoft problem, the CrowdStrike problem. It's not a problem of Microsoft and CrowdStrike. Those were the basically impacted by the situation. Now you have understood, and then you are realizing. But try to imagine that each segment, whatever you are running into the IT system, it may happen with anything. It may happen with any component, whatever you are running, right? Now, what is the way forward approach? The way forward approach is that you should have a method to recover. Don't try to put that on, I will go ahead and penalize A, penalize B, like why my system was shut or it was not working. That is all a reactive thing. The another thing parallelly you have to think, like if any particular my system is not working, how am I going ahead putting a very sequential approach to recover that system? And that recovery should not have any dependency with your current ecosystem. So that's the one of the biggest learning, I mean, I would like to share to all the audience. And make sure that you should think in that direction. If you don't think it, I'm sure one point of time you will learn it in a very hard way.
Absolutely, and it is. I'm very sure a lot of people would be resonating with this uh, as recent as last month,
Yeah.
and as you rightly said, it can happen to any of them. So it's not something that So I think we should all be prepared. So I'm very sure that the initiatives that you're involved in will be very very helpful. One thing that I would also like to ask about is that these customer onboarding, customer uh, grievance addressal, all of that, uh, it has fundamentally also gone into a lot of change, right? In the last few, you spoke about it that a little bit. How, what is the impact that you have observed, and no, and how are companies, say new age company, more agile companies, reacting it to it? How are they bringing efficiency into customer onboarding, resolution, more just in time interventions that are needed at these companies?
Yeah. So if you really talk about, I think onboarding, be it a customer or employee or any new technology, which is something a very critical aspect of your overall delivery model. Like, if you really talk about even the employee, if you talk about a customer, if you talk about any new technology, now the method, and I'll take a very simple example, and as I've already quoted into against your previous question, like take example of your employee onboarding, right? If you really talk about the employee onboarding itself and assume that that person is available remotely now, and then we have eyewitness those kind of things where someone else is interviewing, someone else is joining, and then later on you're trying to figure out, like once person has been asked to deliver whatever he was committing during the interview session, these guys failed to do that. And the moment you go back and try to do a deep dive, you found that someone else has cleared the interview. How am I going ahead and putting a very effective model to make sure that I'm able to take a right decision with the help of technology, to make sure that whatever the people I am shortlisting, the whatever the resource I'm interviewing, that has got a very significant information to make sure that I'm talking to the right person. How are we going ahead and ensuring that we have a pretty authentic system that later on I should be able to validate, like, hey, if I'm talking to Sudhanshu is only the person who is going to join to my organization, right? If I'm talking to a person, maybe a kind of a voice recording, or maybe kind of video recording, or maybe the face recognition, maybe a kind of biometric authentication. How am I ensuring that person who is sitting at the other side of the table virtually with me, I'm able to hold each piece of it. Like tomorrow, if I have to onboard this person, at least I'm not doing any mistakes systematically. That is one of the biggest thing, which is something we have to ensure. And this particular ecosystem is applicable everywhere. Whatever the if you talk about the customer onboarding, if you talk about the technology onboarding, I can tell you from the technology perspective, the same concept is applicable there as well. If you go back, and normally while selecting the technology, you interact with the salespeople, right? And salespeople always sell the things on the PPT. Okay, they will paint such a rosy picture in front of you that you will be overwhelmed. Like, "Hey, I think this is something is really going to resolve my all the problems whatever I'm having it." And then with all good intention, as a salesperson, this guy is having a target to sell, right? He's not going to talk about even a one negative thing about the product. But you as an evaluator, because you are the impacted party, it's I mean, that technology is going to work on a reality, not on the PPT, right? How are we going ahead and ensuring that you are putting a very right metric for your business, like, hey, these are the 10, 20 metrics, which is something I'm going to get out of it. And this is fair. Like, you may go ahead and put that, hey, these are the 20 wish list I'm having it. Out of 20, maybe 10 metrics are must to have. I mean, I can't negotiate at all. Maybe rest 10 metrics could be a kind of good to have or nice to have. If the vendor is able to offer, great. If not, then maybe I'll go ahead and I mean, I can compromise in a simple way, right? So these are the areas where maybe we have to think differently. So, and the moment you are able to document it formally, and as you follow the process of maybe POC or POV, evaluation, ordering process, make sure that those requirements are very well articulated into your contractual agreement, so that as soon as you are onboarding that technology, there is nothing called a gray area. So that later on, once you start test the water on the ground, it should work the way the person has told on the PPT. So that's the few recommendations and input basis on my past experience.
Yes. Just last week we had a event wherein we were talking to a cybersecurity expert, and she was talking about this big fiasco where an AI-led conversation between the CF or between the CEO and the business head led a $40 million loss to a big real estate giant. And all of this similarly, say we are so used to video KYC. That's a conversation for other day, right? So we are so used to video KYC. Now video KYC, there is a multiple layer of authentication, other things that are required on top of it. Okay, let's talk also about you spoke about talent transformation. You spoke about cultural transformation. Uh, as you are helping companies, take this step forward, what are the skill gaps that you are encountering in the context of this massive digital transformation, and where do you see companies now uh, focusing more and more in terms of talent requirements and other things, specifically linked to people and culture and the talent, the skills that are required?
Sure. As I told you, like, every day I think we are getting into the new technology giants, and we are into the process of adopting it,
Yeah.
directly, indirectly, whether you have appetite to buy that technology or the customer is forcing us to adopt that technology in some other way. Basically,
Hmm.
you are changing your traditional method to deliver, right? That's how basically it's happening.
Yeah.
But the crucial and the important portion is that the support ecosystem which you have with you, you can't change those people so frequently, right?
Yeah.
And even with the all genuine reason, those people can't learn those technology every day, right? because I mean, take a very simple example, and I can give you the the recent and the near past example. 2 3 years back, there was a boom like, hey, cloud means Python, the Terraform. If you don't know these two things, it means like you are alien. That is what the people were really trying to make you feel like, hey, this is what the world is moving. If you don't know Python, hey, you are gone. But today, what is happening? You go ahead. There are so many innovative tools are available. You just put your requirement. It can generate a very nice Python code for you. As a
Mhm.
basic understanding of the person, you can go ahead and just fine tune those little bit, and then you can go ahead and paste that code, and it used to work perfectly fine,
Yeah.
right? Even even if you're doing some errors, it can suggest you that, hey, this is the point we are doing a mistake. Please go ahead and correct it, and it will work. Imagine the situation
Yeah.
now versus 2 years back, 3 years back. People were really literally struggling to hire the developers, like, who can write a code for me. And that point of time, it was a niche skill. People
Yeah.
were asking the salary like anything, and still the organizations were hiring. But now that niche, I would say the super niche skill has become average skill.
Yeah.
It's a completely 180-degree change. Now what you need that the person should be able to understand conceptually what is written, should be able to validate the basic errors, and then go ahead and put it right. Even that is also getting eliminated with the many tools, which is something they are coming up with, the low code no code.
Yeah.
Even basic understanding of the person can do a drag and drop, and then you should be able to create a flow and able to integrate. So I'm not trying to eliminate like, hey, we do not need the developers at all, we do not need those skill set people. Yes, you need it, but
Mhm.
I'm just trying to highlight a point, like, the way the demand is moving very fast, it's unexpected, unrealistic. Whatever the niche skill you have today, tomorrow you might be average, and that is you may not be required to the industry. Now what is needed in that scenario, the only mantra which I feel, and I think I keep encouraging to any one of whosoever is really interact with me, like, learning is the only way forward approach.
Yeah.
And don't try to find out like, hey, I will try to grab the knowledge of each and everything. I will become the super master in each and every technology. That is practically not possible. Now what is needed, I think, certainly, I mean, you should try to build your T-shaped skill set or W-shaped skill set. Maybe you might be mastering into one or two technology, but keep learning whatever is happening left and right. And that's the area and the mantra I think the people need to really follow, and continue getting into that, open for the new technology, whatever is getting into the market. Try to adopt, as fast as you can, and
Mhm.
then accordingly try to change your approach, and then go ahead and deliver it. And I can give you, the many people basically ask the question in today's world like, hey, and I can quote my personal example. I'm pursuing the post graduation, AI/ML from one of the reputed management college in this area after having the 22 years of experience. But doesn't mean that, my intention is that, I want to learn the Python coding. And if I get into that, then I think I'm trying to kill myself. That is something I may not be able to do that practically. What is for me? For me is that, I want to learn the concept that, how the Python is going to work, how someone is putting the Python code into the system, how it's going to react. If it is reacting, then what are the things you have to go ahead and do that? What is machine learning functionality? So I should
Mhm.
be aware about the functionality and the operating model of the new technology. So don't try to get into the trap like, hey, you have to learn the development, you have to learn the coding. My suggestion is that, wherever you are, whatever the level of experience you have, try to pick your piece of it. Like, hey, I need to do a management, try to find out, like, with this knowledge, how am I going ahead and managing my people more effectively. If you are an individual contributor, you must go ahead and learn the development. Like, you have to write the code some point of time, so you get
Yeah.
that thing. Maybe you at a at a CXO level, you go ahead and find out like, hey, what is relevant for me. You should know like really how this AI/ML is going to help my business. That's the area where you should be interested, right? So my suggestion is that don't get into trap. Pick up your piece of it, exploit it, grab it, and then start working towards that. So that's how I feel that people are going to be more successful. If you follow this thing.
Okay. And what you said is also applicable for enterprises. So what can be niche today, something that you're working on is wonderful today, uh, could not be wonderful tomorrow. So both in terms of organizational capability and capability of people inside those organizations, right? What can organizations do? How can they address? Because the skill gap, given that the shift in the skills you are saying, it is rapid, it is changing fast, and it will continue to change faster in the future. How are organizations going to address it? What should organizations do to keep abreast?
Yeah. So I think, see, I mean, if you really talk about in today's world, um, most cutting edge technology is AI. AI is everywhere,
Yeah.
and even if you, on a lighter note, if you go back, even your rickshaw puller is also directly or indirectly impacted with AI,
Yeah.
because that guy, some point of time, it used to go ahead and use the GPS, right? So that's the reality.
Yeah.
Now, in a nutshell, this is unavoidable. I mean, you
Yeah.
do not have to tape root. You can't just simply bypass or maybe ignore this dry fact. This is
Mm.
something is needed. Okay. Now, you as a at a receiving end, you have to find out a method to grab that opportunity. Okay, and try to find out how effectively you can really add that skill set. Try to learn the way I have explained, and you are trying to help to the organization. Okay, that's the ground rule.
Mm.
Now, each and every organization, if you really talk about, and I'll touch upon on the AI part. 2023 was moreover related to, like, hey, people were talking about the concept. Hey, this is AI. Everyone was trying to experiment. Everyone was
Mm.
trying to find out their real use cases, like how I can go ahead and implement this AI. Moreover, they were trying to explore, they were trying to learn. Even they were not having a very genuine use case, still they were trying to attempt it. They were trying to find out, like, how it is reacting. Okay, because that was a very rapid growth of this particular technology. Like, everyone was talking about AI, and then if you really go back and talk to anyone in today's world, I think AI is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So 2023 was moreover a kind of era to maybe experiment. People were
Mhm.
trying to get the gist of the technology. People were trying to even the fast fail, like, hey, I have implemented, I did not get the very expected outcome. That's fair. But people were just trying to get their hand dirty. That phase is over. But in 2024, what I have seen a trend where organizations are really putting a business case. Hey, here is the business case. Here is your AI initiatives. How it is going to complement, and that's the priority where every organization is really putting into their roadmap. And idea here is that now no more experiment, no more just general discussion. Whatever you are talking, whatever the new emerging technology you are talking, end of the day, how are we going to meet the business objectives? Okay, that's the one of the thing which we have seen. So in today's world, I think the organizations are paying a very, very high focused approach. They have a very targeted approach. Like, these are the 10, 20 use cases, which I'm going to deliver to my organization in any fashion, in any fashion. Okay. And that should be really giving a positive outcome on the ground. And the moment
Mhm.
I'm talking about the positive outcome on the ground means, like, either you should be able to calculate the cost avoidance, you should be able to add the efficiency into the ecosystem, you should be able to make it completely humanless, the system. So those are the things basically organizations are pushing. And one of the big thing what I have seen, at least, and we keep doing even for our organization, is like, really, how are we going ahead and making sure that there is a buzz, there is a pulse into the organization and the industry, like, hey, you go ahead and must complete the basic training program. You must understand what is the technology about it, right?
Yeah,
You may
yeah,
not,
yeah.
as I told you, like, you may not be a developer, like, you should know really what is the overall ecosystem, what is the working model of AI, what is the working model of ML. If someone is talking, you should not be really bouncing over your head. You should be really knowing it. And that's how the organizations are pushing. So there are two the strong outcome what I can see. One is that these days the organizations are having a very uh, target oriented outcome with any AI initiatives. You have to really
Mhm.
translate the dollar or some efficiency. The another one is that same point of time, really, how am I going ahead and transforming my skill set to make sure that people are able to digest this new reality, and they are adopting, they are complementing. So these are the two big things what I feel that the organizations are having a very huge push in these areas.
And that is where Antwork has also been working with enterprises, and one endeavor, of course, is to bring experts, people who have experience of doing it hands on, bring the voices which can benefit people. At the same time, we work with 100 plus enterprises currently, where the end to end think about how do I look at capability today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow as well. Wherein, how do you align your people capabilities with your business objectives? Your business objective could be growth, it could be consolidation, it could be acquiring a new market, whatever it is. You're focusing on revenue growth, you're focusing on customer satisfaction. All of that are different skill sets to build organizationally and in people. And that is where we have been working. And now we have our own platform. I would love to, people can check it out, visit our website, www.antwork.com. And, you know, and Raj, thank you so much for the last the conversation that I was practically glued listening to you, just because what you said was so fresh, so relevant. And um, I'm very sure that whoever listens to this would really resonate with every point that you made, both in terms of how businesses are evolving, how there is a necessity for businesses to say that this is the only way forward, and we need people, we need cultural transformation to drive this. It is so. Before we wrap this, Raj, any last words? It has been a wonderful conversation for the last, I would say, 50 minutes, and it was absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, same here, and thank you for inviting me. It was really a pleasure talking to you, Sudhanshu, and I think you guys have really picked up those topics which are really, really relevant to the industry. And I think many of people who are there, they are listening, and I think they should be able to correlate with their practical problems. So I think you guys have picked up a very relevant topic, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, yes, absolute pleasure to have you. And for all those who have tuned in, do have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are. And we will constantly endeavor to bring more voices like Raj on this conversation. So keep watching this space. Every week going forward, we would have conversations where we'll take one very pertinent business problem and talk to business leaders on what they are doing to solve those. So I look forward to your continued support, and I'll see you next week. And Raj, thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.